Hello everyone and welcome to Phillip Island. It's episode 9 of my GT3 Mini Series, and this week we're racing in the Fanatec GT3 challenge. After a horrible week in Barcelona in episode 8, I was really hoping to redeem myself this week at Phillip Island. And this week we got drafted in a 1.8k strength of field race, 20 cars on the grid, and we have car number 5. Unfortunately, I had a terrible qualifying run and I started in P15. However, nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. This race for me was one of a kind and I cannot wait to show it to you. Before we get straight into it, just a quick reminder to hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Check out the links to my Twitch and to my Discord in the description. And finally, this video is going to be edited slightly differently because I lost the audio track of my microphone during the live race. So this time the entire commentary is going to be post-race. It's not what I usually do, but I really wanted to show you this race, so I hope that you still enjoy it. Let's get on track. And alright everybody, the lights are green and off we go here at Phillip Island. So my first concern off the bat here is that I'm gonna be on the outside line for the sweeping left-hander that's coming up here. So I get alongside Abraham and eventually I decide to tuck him behind him and take the inside line for this left-hander because it's just safer to be on the inside here. In the meantime, there's a Ferrari out on the left side of the track. It was the man in P4. In the meantime, you can see that behind me, there's a 1.2 second gap that opened up to Stepper, who however manages to catch up all the way down to my rear in this tight hairpin as the entire field concertinas onto itself, and now all cars are brought together again. A little bit of battling up ahead between the Porsches in P9 and P10, but we keep going and eventually we finish the first lap without any problems. Let's check out some of the carnage from the first lap, guys. It mostly unfolded in turn 1, where Robert McDaniel and Jamie McGill come together and they end up involving 2 more cars into this incident. Michael Greenberg in the Lamborghini has to cut across the entire field and will rejoin the track on the other side, and that is the Lamborghini that we saw stranded on the left side of the track. And as you can see, McDaniel in the Porsche ended up slamming against the barrier. Jamie McGill fortunately managed to stay on track and continue his race. Now let's rejoin the live action at the beginning of lap 2. At this point the field seems to have calmed down and I'm chasing Lopez, who is 0.6 seconds ahead of me. Behind me there's a Stepper, a 1.9k rated driver who is trying to get a run up on me coming up on the hairpin. So I look in my rear view mirror and I notice that. For that reason, I decide to defend coming into the hairpin, and what does he do? He slams right into me. I got a 4X, I end up out of the track, and fortunately I don't hit any barriers and I managed to turn the car around quickly and rejoin the track safely. Unfortunately, due to this incident, I lose 2 positions. But even more importantly, I now have a completely damaged rear end. Let's take another look at that. So we're on board with Jeremy Stepper here. As you can see, I move to the right to close the door, brake at my normal braking point, and he slams right into me. I do not believe that this was an intentional move, however, it's still a shame that there was not even an apology from this driver. And as you can see, as I am rejoining the track, the rear of my car is completely bashed in. From this point onwards, I struggled with loss of rear grip for pretty much the entirety of the rest of the race, with the rear wanting to step out on me and oversteer very frequently, especially in tight corners. So I thought to myself, at this point the best thing to do is to just be as consistent as possible and hope that other drivers make mistakes. So as we are starting lap 4, I'm being chased by McDaniel, 1.4k rated driver, only 0.6 seconds behind, but I see some smoke and it's Greenberg in the Lamborghini. He almost reverses into me. I managed to get around him, my rear almost steps out, I almost lose my car there due to the damage that I have. This gives McDaniel an opportunity to push into me. He's right on my rear. I'm having thoughts of what happened earlier, so I cover all the way to the right. I want to hold the inside. He goes completely deep, and this way I manage to easily retain and defend my position. But he isn't going anywhere. As you can see, he's still right on my rear, 0.3 seconds behind, and I know that with my damaged car it's gonna be really difficult to hold them back. Fortunately for me, he also had an incident in lap 1 that you might remember when he hit the barrier, so I know that he's also carrying a little bit of damage, but it's not as bad as what I've got. And as you can see at the beginning of lap 5, as I'm approaching the loop, I almost lose my car because the rear steps out on me again. Now bear in mind, this is gonna keep happening to me for the rest of the race. The car continuously was trying to kill me. A moment later, my spotter notifies me that the driver 2 positions behind me, Gil, has had an incident. So let's take a quick look at what happened there. So Gil, car number 10, was already carrying a bunch of damage from his incident in lap 1. And as he's going through the loop, he loses the rear and completely ends up out on the grass. He was in P16, and this means that now, for us, he is no longer a threat from behind. And this was Greenberg. As you can see, he also lost it in the loop, and he almost reverses right into our path. I was noticing that this was starting to become a truly incident-packed race, but I had no idea of how far it would go. Keep watching to see what happened, guys. And just as I am finishing the 5th lap of this race, I am coming around the last corner and I am notified by my spotter that there is an incident on the home straight. As I come around the final corner, I get a bit of a snap of oversteer here, get the car back under control, and I see that there is 3 cars that are currently stranded on and off the track. We come right through and we go up to P11, gaining 3 positions in 1 lap. So to my surprise, I am now sitting in P11. The gap ahead is 3.8 seconds. The gap behind to McDaniel is half a second, so he's still a threat, but I'm starting to regain all the positions that I lost due to that incident earlier on when I got taken out. And this was the point when the sim racing gods truly started smiling at me. As I'm clearing the hairpin, I am notified that Jones, who is the driver currently in P6, has had an incident. So I throw an eye at my relatives and I see that Jones is currently only 2 positions ahead of me. So I'm looking around to see where his stricken car may be. I don't see him, so I assume that he rejoined the track. And the next thing I see is blue Lamborghini on the right side of the track trying to rejoin the track through the grass. So that is yet another position that we gained during this lap due to another mistake made by a driver. So I concluded lap 6 having effectively gained 4 positions because of other drivers' mistakes. But let's go and check out exactly what happened to these guys. So we're focusing on Andres San Marcos here, and as you can see, as he comes around the final corner of the lap on lap 5, he loses the rear and smacks his car into the barrier. At this point, he's an obstacle sitting in the middle of the track. A couple of drivers managed to avoid him. However, Richard Abraham in the white Porsche and Marsman in the AMG do not manage to get around him. Cars are coming around here at about 230 kilometers an hour, and it is sometimes very difficult to judge which way to go to dodge a stricken car in the middle of the track. All 3 cars end the race right here with terminal damage. And later in this lap, Derek Jones's incident starts with a battle against Jeremy Stepper in the black Porsche. He understeers onto the grass and unfortunately ends up on a collision course against the barrier. That is gonna be the end of his race as well. So let's rejoin the live action. It's the end of lap 7. I'm sitting in P10, 5 positions higher than where I started. McDaniel is hounding me down. As you can see, I almost lost the car right there with oversteer once again. Remember, I'm struggling with damage. This gives McDaniel a run on me. He pulls alongside me, but here I know that if I keep the inside line for the right-hander over here, I can get a better exit, and I do. I managed to defend my position. I tucked the car into the inside of the corner here. McDaniel is super close, only 0.2 seconds behind. I'm praying that he doesn't tap me in the rear here. As we're driving towards the hairpin, I'm very conscious of the fact that he's very eager to overtake me and I need to be careful. As I'm turning in, he comes in into the attack, he takes the inside of the corner but overshoots it massively, and that is an unsuccessful dive bomb which I successfully managed to avoid. And with that, McDaniel is completely out of my rear. Being now 7 seconds behind me, I can finally relax and not have to worry about him being right up against my rear bumper. After this event, I probably had the 3 calmest laps of the race. I was just lapping, getting into a rhythm, keeping the car under control, chasing Henschel ahead, about 2.5 seconds clear of me, and trying to increase my gap to Henderson behind. And before I know it, guess what? The spotter tells me that Henderson and McDaniel behind have gotten into an accident. Let's see what happened. So what you're seeing right now is Alec Henderson's car followed by Robert McDaniel's. Those are the 2 guys right behind me about 5 seconds, and as they are coming around the loop in an almost beautifully coordinated effort, they both at the same time lose the rears of their Porsches, which send them onto the grass, and that is both of them losing about 5 seconds and me being 11 seconds ahead of them, completely clear and safe. And now you're probably thinking, wow, you have gotten so extremely lucky this race. What more could happen? Strap yourself in, because trust me, we are not done. So as we're coming around for the end of lap 11, at the final left-hander, my tires are pretty much cooked. I still have damage, my rear steps out. I almost lose the car and hit the barrier and become one of the statistics of this race, but fortunately I actually don't. I managed to keep the car under control, straighten it up, and get back on the track. All in the meantime, if you look ahead, there's a Porsche out, gone on the left side of the track. That's another position gain. And yet another one! That's Henschel as well. Both cars are gone. What is going on, guys? I do not understand what is going on. Cars are falling on and off the track like flies. Let's check out yet again what happened to those 2 drivers, as we are currently clinching onto a P8. So the first victim this time was Jeremy Stepper, which, if you remember, is the guy who took us out in lap 2 with the punt. He hits the barrier, losing a rear at the last corner. At this point, he shunts his car so hard against the barrier that it becomes undrivable. He is unable to steer, and at turn 1, he just trails straight off the track, and he is forced to retire the car. And as for Stefan Henschel in the Haribo AMG, his problem is just some good old understeer at the loop. He misses his braking point, doesn't turn in time, and ends up out wide on the grass and has to slowly rejoin the track. Now that is 2 more positions that were gifted to us by the sim racing gods who were looking over our shoulder in this race. And now you might be thinking, okay, that must be it, right? You are wrong. It's the beginning of lap 13, the second to last lap of this race, and sure enough, the yellow flag is out. Duvernay has lost his car at the loop. Yet another driver making a mistake at this cursed corner. That'll put us in P7. And at this point, if you could have heard my live action microphone, you would have heard me just absolutely shocked and dumbfounded by how it's even possible that so far there have been so many incidents. But don't worry, because just about half a lap later, it happened. Yet again. I see a dust cloud ahead, and sure enough, Kermer has lost his Porsche and is headed out towards the barrier. I don't know how many times I've said this during this video, but at this point my head was about to explode, guys. At this point, I'm genuinely wondering whether I'm racing against real people or paid actors. Surely enough, this is the point in time when I realize that I have possibly never seen this before in iRacing, not this bad. As I crossed the line and started the final lap of this race, I am currently sitting in P6. I come around and there is another accident at the loop, guys. It's Lopez. Lopez has lost it at the loop. Guys, what is going on? I am in P5. P5, a top 5. I started in P15. I was punted in lap 2. I was all the way at the back. My car is damaged. I should not be P5, guys. I am in P5. There is another accident on track. Let's see what happened to all these drivers, the 3 drivers that have lost it in the last 2 laps of this race. So the first one was Duvernay. He carries too much speed in turn 1, loses the rear, smacks against the barrier, his car is undrivable, and that will be him retiring from this race. Second victim is Kermer. He was right ahead of me. Too much speed into the corner, and once again he's out wide. Fortunately, at least, he manages to avoid the barrier and will finish the race. And guys, finally, the final incident in this insane race. It was Lopez at the beginning of the final lap. Very similar incident to Duvernay's. Too much speed into the corner, loses the rear, hits the barrier. His car is still drivable and he manages to crab his way slowly to the finish line. Altogether, guys, in this race there were 8 DNFs out of 20 drivers. This was a 1.8k GT3 B-Class split. And at last, we ended up crossing the finish line in P5. A top 5 in a race where I probably shouldn't even have gotten a top 10. Certainly not on pace, certainly not after I was punted and had damage on the rear of my car. But miraculously, I managed to stay alive and stay out of trouble, all in the while there was a pandemonium of crashes on track, something like I have never seen before. If you enjoyed this race, guys, please give it a like. Leave me a comment, let me know, have you ever seen anything like this before? Have you had any sort of crazy races like this before? And also, make sure to check out my pages, make sure to check out my Twitch if you want to see me stream. Come to my Discord if you want to join my community and talk about sim racing. The links are in the description. And finally, make sure to hit subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to see more videos like this. That was all for this video. If you raise this combination this week, guys, I hope the sim racing gods will watch after you too. And finally, have a wonderful week and see you in the next one. Take care, guys.